Well, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, December 21st. This is our last Zoom call of the year. Thanks to Patrick McCartney for hosting us. Our guest today is Mizzou head baseball coach Steve Bieser. We'll get to Steve in just a second. I just want to remind you, upcoming tomorrow, one of the busiest days of the year in Mizzou sports. The Tiger women will take on Illinois at noon. The Tiger men basketball will take on Illinois tomorrow night at 8. And of course, it's a Mizzou football team in the Armed Forces Bowl. That will be at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So lots to watch. You may want to have multiple TVs at your house to catch all the action. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to Patrick McCartney for setting up our Zoom call today. And of course, Paul Blackman and Barry Cantor for lining up our speakers as always. You can check us out on kctigerclub.com. We do not know the status right now of meeting in person after the first of the year, which we had hoped to do. So we will get information to you, but this will be our last meeting in any form in 2021. We will meet again on January 4th, either at the flea market or via Zoom, depending on the status of the pandemic. So always a moving target. I appreciate everybody's patience. So let's move to our head baseball coach, Steve Bieser. Steve, welcome. We wish you were here in person, but glad you can join us. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. It's, this is always an exciting time of the year because it is this time when I get a chance to travel west and get there to the Tiger Club and meet everybody and see everybody. But just glad to be on in some fashion and look forward to this conversation today.
I know it's been a frustrating couple of years for you. You had a pretty good team 2 years ago and season cut short by COVID. And then last year, Tigers struggled in the SEC. But you've retooled your roster quite a bit with some incoming transfers and a freshman class that was rated in the top 35 in the country by Baseball America. Tell us about how the roster is shaping up for this year.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this roster. I mean, it's probably been one of the most enjoyable falls that I've had in 20 years of coaching, of just, watching a group of guys that went through all the adversity we went through last year, from injury to COVID-related items, and just to see how well they responded. I think that's a very hungry group. I say it a lot, they got punched in the teeth and we all got punched in the teeth and really kind of have that chip on the shoulder to, I don't think it was that short on talent. I really think it, with all the circumstances that we ran across last year, that there's just a lot of reasons we didn't perform the way that we were expected to perform and the way that we felt like we could perform. But with this group, I mean, there is a lot of transfer portal guys in there kind of reshaping the roster in some areas that we were really concerned about. Obviously, pitching let us down last year and had a really tough time getting outs on the mound. And a lot of the guys that we were counting on to kind of be number one, number two, number three this year, a couple of those guys came down with injury and are working their way back. So we really had to go and be very aggressive in the transfer portal and feel like we've picked up some really key guys there, from Austin Morose to Carter Roostad to Chris Wall, Chile. We have Austin Chile and Nathan Landry, who are like some guys with some real experience in pitching, and they're going to be able to kind of hold us together until we get those guys such as Ian Losey and Zach Heiss and Shane Wilhelm, some of those guys that kind of had hiccups last year and weren't able to finish the season for us. So really like this group, and I think there's a lot of promise in a lot of different areas. But it is, like you said, it's a group that our experiences in the infield, three of our everyday players, everyday lineup, probably only have three everyday players from last year returning. And the youth is really going to be exciting because they are very talented. We got a great group of outfielders but there are going to be some young guys out there playing, but they have that ability. And the class ranking of that group was anywhere from 15 by perfect game and up to 35 with some of the other entities there. But I really feel like, sometimes the rankings don't mean a whole lot until you see them and you see them compete against SEC competition. And all these guys held their own this fall. So, we'll kind of see, we're going to be starting here pretty soon. So that's pretty exciting.
One guy I wanted to ask you about is Carter Roostad, as you mentioned, transfer from San Diego. He's a Kansas City, originally went to Staley High School. He put up some pretty good numbers when he was in San Diego, right?
He did. I mean, he's such a competitor. He's a guy that just attacks when he's out on the mound. It's fun for as a defense. They really enjoy playing behind him because he's going to grab the ball and he's going to go right at the competition. And we kind of see him fitting in a nice weekend role for us in to kind of start things off and feel like he's going to continue to develop consistently here. So he is going to be a key piece of that pitching staff.
Talking to Mizzou head baseball coach Steve Bieser. If you'd like to ask him a question, use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to that after we finish our discussion. Steve, coming out of the fall, how did you feel? Do you feel like you've got a handle on who your weekend starters will be?
Yeah, I mean, really for me, key additions that we've made are going to be right there in the mix of heavy innings early so we can let our younger guys settle in. But other key additions of bringing Coach DeLunison as our pitching coach with a major league experience and kind of bringing in, for me, a philosophy that I've really wanted to use early in the year for many, many years. And I think we're both on the same page on how that should look. Mitch Plasmeyer coming in kind of the director of pitching performance. Those two guys together really rallied this pitching staff to really be a selfless pitching staff. And that's kind of how I see us attacking the beginning of the year. The keys for the past few years for us it's been very difficult when we sustain injury towards the end of the year and just not have enough to finish. So I think using kind of, you can call it a Tampa Bay Rays approach to it, but kind of being lighter on our guys early and kind of continuing to build them so that they got the strength to finish the season out and be at their best at the end of the season is kind of what we look for. But your guys on that rotation and guys that will be right there in that mix. Spencer Miles, who got thrown into the fire last year. He should have been a Sunday guy, or he should have been a little bit later in the rotation and had to kind of throw out of a Friday night situation. But he went out he actually finished the season strong for us, but he went out and into the Cape and really dominated the Cape and had a great summer in the Cape. So he's coming back with a lot of confidence. Austin Morose is a guy that we haven't mentioned, but he's a guy that's got a lot of experience, started at Kentucky and was most recently at the University of Charlotte. He really looked good in the fall and kind of solidified the 1 or 2 spot probably in our rotation early on. And then obviously Carter's right in that mix to be, those guys kind of maybe being on the front end of that and then having a really solid group of guys right behind them that's going to be able to match with that. But that would be kind of a on paper type early start of the season anyway.
Austin Morose is I believe he's 6'8". Is he a really hard thrower, or it sounds like an intimidating?
Yeah, he's 6'8" might be stretching a little bit, but a really physical guy that really throws a power sinker. So it's 94, 95, and all of a sudden it's a bowling ball sinker. The bottom just falls out of it, and it gets tons of early weak contact on the ground, and that's a strength for us. Last year we led all of SEC defensively, with infield defense there in SEC play only, and we feel like we can really field it on the ground, and we've got a couple guys that's going to produce a lot of ground balls for us, and Austin's probably going to be the leader of that group, and Parker Wright, who was injured last year, is a local guy that's throws kind of the same type of sinker, and both those guys are 94, 95 type guys that's going to be very effective for us.
Talk about your middle infield. A couple guys, Joshua Day, off to a great start last year, and then he broke his hamate bone, and I know it really hurt his season. And then the freshman Justin Colon, and generally middle infield in general.
Yeah, it's a strength of our club. We've got 4 middle infielders that I feel like would have started on any other team that I've had since I've been here. Like they would have been, we're going to have 2 out there, 1 at second, 1 at short, and the other 2 should be starting as well. And that's a good problem to have. And Colon he's a special young man. Inexperience right now is probably the only thing that'll hold him back. But from a defensive standpoint, he has all the tools from, he can fire at 95 across the infield, has exceptional range and really reads the ball off the bat. But it's hard to beat a Josh Day who was really so solid for us last year at that position, and just a complete player and has a lot of experience. But the other two guys that, one of our most notable offensive players is transfer Nander DeSatis, who was at Florida State. And Nander's got 131 starts in 2 years at Florida State. So, there was something that they liked a lot about him to start him every single day. And I can see it right away that the defense is really a calling card for him. He can really range, can make some special plays, and his offense is continued to get better throughout the fall, and he's making some good adjustments here. And then kind of the one that always gets out of the mix is Trevor Austin, who's just been so solid and had a great summer in the Appalachian League. So 4 guys that we feel very comfortable in the middle, and we might have to start creating some spots for those guys getting everyday lineup as well.
DeSatis and Cologne, they both went to Monteverde Academy in Florida. Are you getting a pipeline through down in Florida?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great school to get that pipeline from. I can tell you that there's there's a lot of big leaguers that come out of that program, but yeah, it was very fortunate. It's never easy to grab a guy from Florida area and be able to pull him up to the University of Missouri, but very fortunate that connections that I had with some players that I played back with in the day and from Puerto Rico and really helped getting in our corner to help, nudge those guys the right way here.
All right, let's talk about your conference, which I remember when Mizzou joined the SEC, everybody talked about a great football conference is. And I said, oh my gosh, baseball is unbelievable. Last year, the 2 finalists from Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. It's a daunting it's a gauntlet going through that conference.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, and that's what if you're a competitor, you love to compete against the best. And then there's no doubt every single weekend that we're competing against the best. And it's just, you're just right there to win the series or to lose the series. And it's a team that can, give up the fewest amount of outs and obtain those outs quickly there from a defensive standpoint. That's going to probably win that game or win that series. And, I felt like last year we could compete really well for a bit. And then it always we had that one bad inning, but, the conference, as good as it was last year, I think it really improved this year. Again, it's going to be much more difficult to navigate this year than it has been in the past. And the transfer portal is going to be a huge reason for that. A lot of clubs really strengthen their weak areas, and a team like LSU, who's made the coaching change and was able to pull the top players from Arizona to LSU. That offense is going to be very special, but hopefully we can handle their pitching and be able to compete right there with them. And I feel like the club that we have is going to compete with everybody in the conference.
You haven't released your non-conference schedule yet. You said before we got on that you were close to having it done. Who is on that of note this year?
Well, we'll have our home and home with Kansas again. We'll have Missouri State with a home and home. And then it's the normal group there that will play St. Louis U and SEMO, and then also Edwardsville. So, and we're still trying to, the midweeks have been very difficult. There's just not a lot of choices for midweeks that's real close to us. So trying to get people to come in to play us has been quite a bit of a challenge, but we're about 2 games short on our schedule, and we're hoping to fill those in early. Early March and late March is the 2 open dates that we have, but the schedule is going to go ahead and be posted out there, and we'll continue to look for those extra 2 games as the season goes. But you got to be smart how you place those as well, because every weekend, like you said, in the SEC, it's a gauntlet, and you can't really pile them on top of each other. But we'll open up non-conference in Louisiana against Nicholls State, and then we'll head up to Louisiana Monroe. We'll play Southern in the midweek there, but that's always a tough task whenever you're going on the road on the first weekends, because you're playing 8 games in 10 days, and it's just you're right out of pretty much a lot of indoor work, and that really takes a toll physically on the players. And that's where I feel like to be smart and pace our pitching and pace our everyday players, of giving a lot of guys opportunities early so we can settle in and be really competitive once we hit the conference play.
So you say you're initial trip will be to Louisiana to start the season now, your spring trip?
Yeah, it almost feels like we're going to live in Louisiana because we have to go back and play LSU at LSU this year. So we've got three full weekends in Louisiana this year on our schedule.
Wow, that's did you come out of the fall? Do you feel like you got a closer?
I think right now, when we look at the closer, Drew Garrett, I mean, just phenomenal stuff, phenomenal arm, went to the draft league and really started to settle in down the stretch there. But that's a guy that has the closer stuff, 97, 98. He's got a big time cutting fastball with a ton of high spin on it, and a devastating breaking ball. And he's locked down when he's through the strike zone. That was an issue last year, but we're really seeing that strike zone awareness for him come. But I would say, the other guy, Austin Chile, is kind of the consistent guy that's the transfer from Middle Tennessee State. Also has that closer type stuff. He's a split finger guy, so it's always nice to have that strikeout type pitch as your closer to be able to come in. But Austin's a guy that can be really steady in there. And I think as Ian Losey gets back with us, Ian was a guy that had surgery back in May, and we thought we'd have him the last week or last month of this season. And he is way ahead of schedule and looks to be potentially ready by March 1st, if not before. So he's been throwing really well, and has gained more arm strength. He was probably but he was our most consistent and best bullpen guy last year as a true freshman. But, we're seeing the velocities in that 95 range out of him already. And he's still, a little bit out of his, from really being 100%.
I know you were frustrated last year by the amount of walks that the pitching staff gave up. What can you do to correct it? Is it something that's contagious in the staff?
Yeah, it really is. And it's something that, the more that it's there and the more that you harp on it. And I really felt like maybe one of the things that hindsight is, man, we just made too big of an issue out of it. Hey, you got to throw strikes. You got to throw strikes. Well, every pitcher that steps on that mound is trying to throw strikes. And then whenever that's kind of the thought in your head, like, hey, I have to throw the strikes, they kind of get out of that competitive mode and just, really not being themselves. So, part of it is it's a fresh staff. There's not, it's about 50% of new guys coming in. And the other guys that are here were guys that were for the most part throwing the strikes. So you have to have strike throwers to have a chance. And that's something that I think that in the fall we've done a really good job. I mean, we want our guys throwing strikes, over 60% of the time. And a philosophy that we've carried into this season is we want to compete through the zone. We want to initiate early contact, and, the games coming around, those true outcomes. We want strikeouts and home runs, but you can't get a strikeout until you throw a couple balls through the strike zone and get to 2 strikes. So, I felt like they've really bought into that concept of just, hey, let's go get some weak contact early. And if we get to the 2 strikes, we're going to punch some guys out.
I want to ask you a couple of questions I've been asking every head coach we've had. Number one, how has the transfer portal changed your approach to recruiting?
Yeah, I'd probably give you the same answer. I mean, it's an area that we just aren't sure exactly how that's going to how it's going to develop over the next several years. I know last year we saw probably about 2,400 baseball players jump into it. I think a lot of those guys had a really tough time of finding places to go to. I mean, and we're still dealing with the COVID holdovers, and the rosters are still jam-packed and a lot of difficult things there. But in reality, every player, gets a chance to be a free agent, and they can choose that for many different reasons. They can choose it because they're behind somebody at the university they're at and not getting the playing time that they want, or they can choose it, and part of that is, that spot usually is going to open up, and sometimes the grass isn't always greener as you jump to somewhere else because you're you're in a system that you're pretty comfortable with and about ready to take that position over. But, I think that the free agency part of it is guys also want to go out there and see, if they can't find themselves a better deal. And that's something that is going to be a challenge for every coaching staff. It's, your best players, if you're not going to the College World Series, and your best players may look and jump on you to go somewhere that is. And we got to make sure that we're being super competitive here as well, so we can retain our players. And like I said, our culture is great here right now. I think our players know that we truly care about them, and we're getting the most out of them right now. So health is going to be the key issue for success this year.
Just a side question on the transfer portal. Once the player announces that he is going in the transfer portal, then you're allowed to contact him. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, you cannot contact the player until after he hits the transfer portal. But I know there's some schools that push that a little bit, and there's a ways around that, and I think we're in a lot of loose areas of the compliance in our game right now.
Shocking to hear that.
Yeah.
The other question I want to ask you about has the NIL changed your approach to recruiting?
Well, I think that's so new as well. It's obviously we want to be able to find ways to enhance the scholarships and enhance the money out of pocket, because we're an equivalency sport, and we don't have a single player that's getting their entire scholarship paid for, and they're paying money to come here to play baseball. And I would love to be able to get it to all of our players are not paying money. Like you said earlier, SEC, great football conference, but it's an unbelievable baseball conference, and there's a lot of pride in SEC baseball, and our athletes, I feel, need to be kind of respected the same way. The amount of time that they put in to develop their game and the money they spend to put themselves on a platform to be very successful is they're very well deserving. So hopefully we can continue to as a university find ways to make it attractive through the NIL process, and those are things that we're kind of diving into, like how can we attack this. But I think we're going to see it less. It's going to take a little bit for baseball to kind of get in there and really get something that's lucrative.
One other thing I always think about Missouri baseball compared to the rest of the SEC is most of those states don't have a major league team, and you have two within 2 hours of campus. I don't think anybody else has anything close like that. That has to be a challenge in selling your program. Well,
I think it is, and I think it would be. I think a lot that really hurts us is the time that we start our baseball season. I mean, when you got two professional teams and they're within an hour and 30 minutes of either side of you, the one thing we know is we got great baseball fans in the state of Missouri. So, why wouldn't they have just as much interest in coming and seeing, the future of Major League Baseball? Because when you walk into an SEC game on a Friday night, there's about $10 million sitting out there on the mound starting that game between those two guys and their bonuses they're going to get, in the first round, being a first rounder. So there's two first rounders battling on every Friday night when you come watch a University of Missouri game. And the pace doesn't change much when you get into Saturday and Sunday. That's just, it's a pitching league, and it's a very talented league. And, we've seen that the number of draft picks that come out of the SEC is double from any other conference. So you're coming to watch future professional players and a great brand of baseball. But an issue is when you start that in February, it's pretty tough to sit in the stands for a 3-hour baseball game whenever the weather is what it is here. So, I'm one of those guys that say if we can back that season up and get it, to get it to where we play a little deeper in the summer and not have to start February 18th, it definitely is going to be an advantage for Missouri. There's no other SEC team that starts their season and plays their first 15 games on the road. I mean, you get a chance to settle in at home, and you're playing at home, and that's a huge advantage in the nice weather. So I'd love to see somebody, and this has been something that's been going on for years about the timing of the season. Most of your northern schools want to see the season backed up and start, even if we could just start March 1st, give us 2 more weeks, I think it would make a huge advantage for us.
Is there any progress being made on that? Or?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, the tough part is your power schools, and especially in baseball that are down south are not interested in that at all. I mean, they understand the advantage that they have. So being able to get that vote from the power schools that are already south that have the advantage. And then the other thing would be the cost of it from your mid majors and stuff from a Division I standpoint, that, now you're out of school and you're paying for all this extra part whenever you're not in school there. So I think that the finance side of it and some of the bigger schools south would really fight it a little bit. but we're still trying. I mean, we're pushing. I know Michigan's got a very good baseball program, and Coach Bakich there and several of other of us are really looking at trying to, continue to keep that in the forefront.
You will finish your non-conference schedule in mid-March, and then you get to go to Vanderbilt to start the SEC seasons. Are they I assume they're as powerful as ever.
Yeah, they're not going to change. I mean, they've got a really good system there. They've got a great head coach. They keep running in the number one, top 3-4 recruiting classes every single year. They get the best player in every state, and they found the niche with their earned income strategy of getting their baseball players full rides for the most part, and that's really hard to compete at. For any team to compete against, and they've got it figured out, and they're doing a great job with what they do there. But that's going to be a challenge. I mean, the talent that they have year in and year out. But baseball. The thing about baseball, the great thing about baseball is that it's not a physical sport, so it's not like your manpower. If you can go out and out execute and play the game really clean, it's going to be a close game, and then we've got to continue to develop and learn how to win those really close games that we've been in a lot of those, and just have to be a little bit more successful. But it'll be a challenge. But it's people say, well, it's Vanderbilt, or it really doesn't matter. Vanderbilt, LSU, whoever else is on that schedule, the team that's going to win that weekend is going to be the team that plays the best over 3 games, and that's really what it comes down to.
Ready for some questions from our viewers. First question: what role do you see possible that Sam Horn might play when he comes to campus?
Yeah, Sam was a guy that we started. Obviously, the one thing he has is arm strength. So, a few years ago that we've recognized this young man, and at that time, Coach Corral, being in that South area, he was kind of in charge, and he was really talking to Sam a lot throughout that process. And we knew the decider for us being able to get him on our campus would be that it's going to be that football baseball combination, and really giving him the flexibility to be the best that he can be as a football player. And we've seen some really good ones do it. Jameis Winston there, Florida State, was able to pull it off. And Sam's very passionate about baseball as well. So I think we're going to see a guy that's really going to figure out how to balance the two. But Sam doesn't see himself just as a pitcher right now. He sees himself as a baseball player. He plays shortstop and some third base, and likes to swing the bat. So he has a passion for baseball, but I feel like, he's going to have a chance to be able to play both sports here at Missouri. Coach Drink and I have talked several times about the balance and what that would look like. And we want to make it work for Sam.
Back in my day, we had some well-known two-sport athletes. Phil Bradley is the first one that comes to mind, played quarterback and played for the Seattle Mariners later. It's a lot tougher today, isn't it, to be a two-sport athlete?
Yeah, I really believe it is. I mean, you're seeing sports specialization, and guys are, playing baseball all year round, or they're focused on one sport now. And, then when it was a 3-sport, most of us were 3-sport guys. We were playing, whatever the season was, that was the most important season, and you would jump to that. And, but where we are now, I think it's kind of it's a unicorn to see somebody that can play both football and baseball, or even just be able to play pitcher and a position at the college level too. So that's another challenge in itself.
Next question from our viewers: without naming names, are there outreaches to Mizzou baseball alumni who are or have been MLB standouts? Some guy recently signed a $120 million contract, I think.
Yeah, no, there's that constant reach, and it takes some time to build those relationships, and that's something that I've been really very big on, is building those relationships. And there's no secret that our facilities have to improve if we're going to continue to recruit at a really high level. The SEC is taking off in that facilities race, and we've got to step up and do some things, and those conversations are always there. But Again, I think part of it is just wants to see some stability and see, the success that we're going to have. And, that's something that I know that's going to be here, is that we can compete in this league, and we can do a really good job, but we do need to make some steps into fundraising and getting our facilities to, upgraded with the rest of the SEC.
I'm going to jump to one of the other questions. And what facilities upgrade is at the top of the list? And will the new football facility have an indirect benefit to baseball?
Yeah, I think the first part of it, the new football facility is definitely going to have a benefit because it releases the pressure on our only indoor that we have here. So, last year we're preparing for our season, and we've got one indoor between 4 or 5 different groups that really want to use that indoor. And it was nothing for us to practice from 7 to 10 o'clock at night. And that's not really conducive for a college athlete to practice at that time, because it takes time for your body to wind down and get that sleep. And you're asking them to roll back out and be able to lift weights that next morning, because they got class and then we got practice. So, having that indoor is going to help us from a timing standpoint. That indoor needs to be addressed for baseball specific. It's a multi-purpose area, but for us, the biggest improvements that we have to make is making our stadium more stadium-like. The rest of the stadiums in our conference pretty much are $50-70 million stadiums that's been built. And not that it changes the game, but it changes the recruiting part of it whenever, you're going and every player that we're wanting here is also got, 2 or 3 other SEC options. And we've got to compete against that. And we've got to be able to beat them out, on occasion. But it's been very challenging until our facilities kind of to make that jump. And I know that we're really talking from administration group of kind of getting those things rolling. And I felt like we were in a really good spot before COVID crushed us there. We kind of had some good plans, but the indoor facility was the primary thing that I felt like we needed, was to get that indoor facility so we can continue to develop the players and make sure that we're ready on opening day to go out and compete. So being able to take the old indoor, and I think add in addition to it to get kind of a full infield area set up so that we can kind of get a lot of the training that we need to get in, is going to be valuable. And then readdressing our stadium from, a fan experience. I think, things that we really need to look at is, in order to go get concessions and stuff, you got to walk out. You can't see the game. Just a lot of different things I think we can reconfigure our stadium and update our stadium to get us to where we want to get from a facility standpoint.
We talked about Vanderbilt. Who are the other teams that you would see be the favorite in the SEC this year?
Well, I think Arkansas is right there with everybody. Again, Arkansas has got a really experienced group coming back offensively. They always figured out on the pitching side that they, sometimes last year they used about 6 pitchers, and that's about all they had to use all year. But they'll figure it out on the pitching side. They'll be really competitive. You're going to see LSU really take a jump. I think there's some energy there with that program offensively. I think they're one of the top teams in the conference as well. And then I think it's the same thing. Mississippi State is going to be right there. They lost some key guys in that national championship club, but they're returning plenty. And then Ole Miss, I think, is a team that's kind of, when you look at on paper, they're a team that's been right there year after year. Haven't really got over the top and made it, through the super regionals, but they've got a team that's got that experience and they were pretty good last year. I think you're going to see them take a step forward as well. But, those are probably just the top handful of teams that have really seemed to be at the peak and at the top of where everything's at.
You will open your home SEC season against Arkansas on March 25th. What other weekend games would be attractive to us coming from out of town?
Every single one of them that you can make is attractive. I can tell you that. The thing is we want you coming because I think our team's going to be really special, and I think you're going to see great baseball, and there's not a slouch any weekend that you come on the SEC and even non-conference wise, Gonzaga coming in on the 4th weekend. of the season, that's going to be a challenge. They've got, arguably one of the best pitchers in the country that's going to throw for them on Friday night. And then it's going to really, from the fourth weekend on, there's it's going to be a knockdown drag out every single weekend and great competition. But I like our guys here, and I think they'll be exciting to watch. And the one thing I can promise is that they're going to go out and give it their all every single day.
Next question. A couple of years ago, and when you were at the club, you correctly predicted that Bradsinger would be an effective major leaguer. Did you face Asa Lacy when he was at A&M? And if so, could you give us a scouting report on him? Of course, he was the #1 pick of the Royals a couple of years ago.
Yeah, as soon as I saw Asa Lacy slip and the Royals were able to grab him, because I didn't think he would be there. Mike Matheny's a very good friend of mine, and got to know Dayton Moore over the last several years. And I immediately shot out a text and said, congratulations, because he's going to be a big-time big leaguer. I feel like, fortunately we were able to beat him, but the score was like 2-1 or something crazy like that. He was arguably probably the toughest and best pitcher that I've seen, consistency wise from what he did that single year. And then also seeing his stuff firsthand, the day that we faced him. It was a tough matchup for anybody to face him, whether you're right-handed or left-handed. And if his health's there, he's going to be ready really soon.
Here's an interesting question. I have thought about this myself. Assuming everyone's Friday starter is a #1, have you ever considered moving your #1 to Saturday or Sunday to face the other team's #2 or 3?
Yeah, I think if you followed us very closely, you will see that I throw my #1 guy on Saturday, and I don't really, I throw him in the second game. To me, the second game is so pivotal because you're coming off of a momentum of winning the second game, and now you got one more game to win the series. And in our conference, there's very little thinking of we're going to go in and sweep a series. We got to find a way to win the series. So you've seen Tanner Houck and you've seen TJ Sikkema. The one year that we didn't really need to do it was the year that we had TJ Sikkema, Michael Plasmeyer, and my Kansas City guy. I'm just drawing a blank on my other left hand, Tyler LaPlante. Those three guys could flat out pitch, and they're all left-handed. And we were able to throw Sikkema that year on Friday, who could match up with any other #1. And then Michael Plasmeyer was dominating on Saturday and winning the Saturday game. And that year we had a special rotation that, we were very successful that year. But yeah, I like to throw arguably our best guy on game #2, and we do that quite regularly here.
Well, Coach, it sounds like pitching is going to be the key, as it is in every level of baseball, and it sounds like you really have added some depth to the staff this season.
Yeah, really excited. Like I said, I'm ready to get going. It's kind of boring around here right now because you don't hear bats banging or anything. Everybody's home for break, and we'll get to the first of the year, and before you know it, we'll be opening up in Louisiana. All
right. Hey, Steve, starting your 6th season with the Tigers, we wish you the best of luck. And we really appreciate taking the time to join us today, and a Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to everyone. And Mark, thank you for having me on, and go Tigers. We got a big day tomorrow, so it's going to be exciting just to sit on the couch and watch everything.
Hope we get to see you in person next time.
You bet.
All right, Steve, head baseball coach Steve Bieser. Again, this is our last last meeting for 2021. We will let you know what's going to happen on January 4th, tentatively scheduled Stephen St. John from Radio 810. Hey, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Make sure you go to kctigerclub.com for information on events and when we're meeting and if we're meeting and anything else that comes along. And encourage your friends and family to watch it on YouTube. And if they could hit the like button, we would really appreciate it. So that's it for 2021. It's been great. I loved hosting these, and we will see you. Everybody have a great holiday.